Hey, what's going on, you all? I'm LuminousRah, and today we are going to have a real conversation. But before we do, we're going to set the mood, clear the energies in the air, set that vibe and intention, and we're going to dive right in. Before we fully dive in, what do you want this conversation to give to you today? Would you like clarity, healing, language, or courage? And when you hear the word sex, what emotion shows up first in your body? Where exactly do you feel it? And what's your current intention for sex in your life right now? Today's topic is something that people love to avoid: sex. And I don't mean in a surface level conversation about it being good or bad. I want to talk about the energy of sex, the programs around it, and how it shapes the way that we connect with ourselves and others. Now, before we go there, I think it's important that we know who we're listening to, because in this era of content and community, it's important that we protect our paradigm. So here's a little bit of my background. When I was around 9 or 11, my mom brought up the conversation around sex, and she basically let me know you don't need a man to please you. You can please yourself. And at the time, I was like, lady, what are you talking about? But as she went further into the discussion, I started to comprehend exactly what she was saying and what she meant. And eventually, later on down the line, I started to experiment with that. But overall, that conversation planted a deep-rooted seed. So as I got older, I didn't associate sex with guilt. I understood it as pleasure, something that can be sacred if approached with intention. I'm so happy that she started my journey off with that understanding. I probably would have been a little lost or hung up on some boy somewhere, but she basically freed me from the idea of attaching the act of sex and pleasure with another person. So essentially, if you really think about it, I took my own virginity in a sense, even though technically I didn't, but the emotional connection and the attachment was for self. So I developed an early onset of self-love because I had to find myself attractive and feel comfortable with myself and my body, and what I was trying to figure out was going to bring me some sort of pleasure. So in that exploration and discovery, I developed a really good, healthy relationship when it came to sex. Now that was inside of the home, but as we all know, when we get older, we're influenced by outside people, community, society, movies, all different type of things. So outside, I learned that there was fear surrounded around sex. I saw a lot of shame that was implemented on sex. Overall, a lot of fear-based energy. Basically, don't get pregnant, don't catch anything, and you're not worthy if you have more than 3 bodies. So basically, I grew up learning both ends of the spectrum around sex and how this conversation is seen as taboo, even though for me, it's not taboo. It's very relevant, very important, and a conversation that needs to be had more often so that other people understand what they're getting into when it comes to sex, because a lot of people are just thrown into this field not knowing what to do, not knowing what to expect, and not knowing what's right and wrong, and how to be safe, cautious, but also free and willing to experiment and go through these experiences that we definitely need as a part of our life. So I'd say as I journeyed on this exploration of discovering my sex and my sexual energy, oftentimes, like others, I had to find my balance. Now that you know that about me, I'm curious about you. What were the first messages that you received about sex at home or at school or religion? Which of those feel true to self, and which of those don't necessarily feel like they're your own discovery or your own understanding? They feel kind of borrowed. If your younger self could ask one honest question about sex, what would it be? When I finally did decide to lose my virginity, I didn't want it to necessarily be about love or a man choosing me. Look, I already started off empowered, right? I wanted to choose myself. I wanted to indulge in my own way, because back then, the influences around me, my friends, and different conversations I was having with different girls around my age, I was observing they were caught up in a man. They were very much caught up in the emotional tie and trying to find that perfect boyfriend and the right one to lose their virginity to, and possibly hold on from high school all the way through college into adulthood and marry their childhood love. For some reason in the onset, I already understood that for me personally, that would have been a mistake. I wanted to explore. I wanted to know what was out there. I wanted to get to know the different energies and learn myself and learn what I liked and didn't like. And I didn't want to chain myself to one special person, because I understood that when you put that much expectation attention and responsibility on one person, especially at a young age when your brain isn't even fully ready or developed yet, right? You may feel like you're going to make a mistake. You're going to wonder at some point in your life what else is out there. And even at a young age, I always tried to make sure that I was sure about my decisions. I didn't want to do something that I was going to regret later on. So whether my decisions were good or bad in someone else's observation of what I was doing, I wanted to be okay with what I did, with the decisions I made. So when it came to choosing myself, I wanted to choose someone that wasn't necessarily a boyfriend. I actually wanted to choose a friend, someone that I felt safe with and I could trust. And to be honest, one of the obstacles that I was met with that I didn't realize was even a thing, I thought boys were always adamant or rushing to try to take someone's virginity, but no one wanted to take my virginity. And it was because from the male perspective around that time, the boys that did take girls' virginities, they felt like the girls were incredibly too clingy, and I agreed. I felt like that too. I didn't want to be clingy. I wanted to be free, and I wanted to explore, and I wanted to expand. So it was kind of a challenge to lose my virginity. And when I actually gave it to a friend after a long deliberation and telling him like, look, I'm not going to be clingy. I just want to give it to somebody that I know is going to keep me in mind and be patient and take their time and listen to me. And I feel like that's you. And I want to give it to you, because I can tell you don't want to take it. You're worried about whether I'm going to be attached or clingy or whether I'm going to start some type of chaos or problems. And I promise you, I keep my word that I won't. So I just wanted to experience that experience, but not have any emotional attachment that comes along with it, which actually put me in a really good position later on in life. And I remember thinking to myself, even back then, I don't want anybody to own my story or my body. I want to take ownership and responsibility and be in control of my own story. That early decision taught me something. It taught me that a lot of women never really get the chance to take ownership of their own story. They don't get the chance to feel that they own their own pleasure. And that ownership has protected me from manipulation, the guilt, from performing for male validation. I wasn't having sex to be chosen. I was having sex because I chose it. And I understand that this isn't everybody's start to their sexual journey and endeavors. I understand that a lot of people are often tied up and don't feel comfortable enough to explore or be honest or say what they want. And sometimes you grew up in a really strict household and you didn't necessarily have such a healthy relationship at the onset of fulfilling this desire and embarking on this journey, is understanding it as pleasure rather than duty or obligation. And I'm here to help you clear that up. Before we move on, I do want to ask you, when you think about your first sexual choices, were you choosing or were you aiming to be chosen? In the past moments, did you say yes for desire, safety, approval, or fear of loss? What's one boundary you wish you practiced earlier? What would it have protected? When we talk about protection, it also brings something else to mind for me, especially my idea of sex and how some experiences that I've experienced in my past shaped how I feel about it. And it takes me back when I was about 9, I believe. I was pretty young. I was going through photos with my mom and I saw this beautiful woman. She was so vibrant. She had this beautiful dress on. And I was asking my mom who she was. And she said, oh, that's my friend Valerie. For some reason, I want to say her name. So we're going to say Valerie's name in remembrance, okay? And I was like, oh, well, if that's your friend or your best friend, where is she? Back then when you're younger, baby, you have a best friend, she gonna be at your hip. My best friend's definitely gonna know my daughter, and my daughter's gonna know my best friend. And she ended up dropping a bomb on me. She told me that she died. And I couldn't conceptualize her dying at such a young age. Back then, when you're young, you're naive, and you think that people die when they're old and shriveled up. And even looking at my mom at that age, I understood that my mom was older, she was mature, but she wasn't old. So I couldn't understand how she would die. And she told me that she died of AIDS. So she dropped the bomb that she died because her husband gave her AIDS. And that completely shattered another aspect for me when it came to sex, because in my fragile little mind, I thought that when you get married, you're protected. That's the only time you're able to have unprotected sex, because my mom was very adamant about talking about having protected sex and protecting myself and not allowing men to just just use my body to get one off. There was a lot of discussion around that topic, and that really broke the idea of purity, and it broke this fairy tale idea that I had around marriage. And I realized that it's very important to understand and know who you choose as a partner as well as part of your protection. And even when you're in partnership, you still have to protect yourself. So I completely shifted my paradigm around comfort, protection, and sex when it came to that because of that one story that she told me. I'd say that I wasn't this fairy tale girl that wanted to get married and wanted to have children. That wasn't my dream because I was understanding that you can't trust men just because you're in a certain position. You have to really weed through them. You have to watch them. You have to understand them. You have to be in tune with your own energetic value and your intuition in order to understand who to share this essence and this closeness with, because they're not all worthy, right? So even when it comes to me choosing that friend that I was comfortable with, I'm so happy that I did, because what I thought about him was true in the moment that mattered the most. I felt incredibly safe with him, even when it hurt and we had to adjust. There were things that I didn't know when I lost my virginity, like even some positions hurt more than others, and there's just no conversation being had from a responsible person that understands the journey of going through sexual endeavors and desires and how to travel down the spectrum of sex, right? So I was listening to girls my age and they didn't really know anything. You know, they're doing what they're doing, but they don't know the complexities of this act. And they're often coming from a different understanding and belief system, thinking that this is going to win this guy over. This is going to get her this ring. She's going to be able to be the girlfriend or get all of these things. And because my mom shared certain things with me that most adults don't share with their kids, I started off from a more real perspective and understanding just a smidget how ruthless people can be. Because even now, looking at where I am now, what I understand now, okay, what I thought back then and how I thought it was bad back then is nothing compared to what I understand today, okay? But I will say, being younger and finally deciding to engage in those activities, that was definitely a part of my protection, because it was also a paradigm that a lot of boys and girls didn't expect, right? They didn't expect me to understand what I understood and move how I moved. I wasn't moving like all the other girls, so it was very hard to peg me and understand what I had going on, and it was very difficult to manipulate me because I understood what I was coming to do. You know what I mean? It didn't matter if you told me I was pretty or you loved me or you were trying to coerce me. None of that stuff mattered because I understood what I understood, and I was ready to bail out, you know, because I just couldn't trust the longevity of relationship when it came to men. I just understood that finding somebody that was very intentional and experiencing this experience with me and traveling down this journey of pleasure, that was the best bet, and to feel safe and to be able to trust them in a certain way. You know what I mean? Not so much to be naive, but enough to know that we can at least do this action. Does that make any sense? It wasn't whimsical for me. It wasn't like, oh, I'm getting swept off my feet because I'm experiencing this with this person. It was more so, I want to experience this with this person, but I'm not idolizing them because I'm experiencing this with them. It's really important to reflect and think about this fact here. A lot of people are having sex with people that they can't trust, that they don't feel comfortable with fully. And that within itself is an indication that you might not want to be having sex with these individuals, right? We often dismiss our intuition and what we're feeling, or we may be caught in a situation where we feel kind of obligated to go through with the act because we don't want to cause an issue, or we don't want to look like a problem, or we don't want them to get aggravated and the situation to get dangerous. And that's why it's very important to listen to your intuition and have a strong sense of discernment. And it's not just an aspect of protection, even though that's very important, but we also have to understand you have better sex when you're comfortable. You have much better sex when you can trust. You have better sex when you can be vulnerable and open. It's not even worth catching the body if it's not good. And I'm so happy that I had this belief system around it being pleasurable, because if it's not pleasurable, pleasurable and it sucks, I'm going to be kind of agitated. So I knew that and understood at least that about my younger self, to the point that I was kind of particular and very picky about who I chose to have sex with. We have to remember that sex isn't just a physical, topical thing. It's not a desire that you're just trying to feel or release. This is a very spiritual thing. This is pretty serious. Depending on how you approach this, it can take away from your life force energy, or it can replenish you. This is an incredibly intimate and vulnerable experience. It really doesn't matter what the media says, what your favorite artist says, or how people downplay the experience. This is something bigger. This is something powerful, because if you really think about it, there's not too many experiences out here in the world that feel as good or release dopamine the way sex does. So you have to think about the power of that energy and how that energy is intertwined with the act. And I think it's important for us to realize as well that energy is not compartmentalized. The way we operate and move on this earth is not the way the spiritual realm or even nature moves and operates. When you think about it, if you go to your main primary physician and you're having skin issues, they can only help you so much, and they're going to direct you to a dermatologist because it's compartmentalized, right? But when it comes to spiritual essence and spiritual energy, it's not compartmentalized. So your spiritual energy when it comes to sex isn't separate from your spiritual energy when it comes to your traumas, or your spiritual energy when it comes to your aura. All of it is connected. So however you embark on this journey is absolutely going to affect every aspect of your life. Don't let people play in your face and dim down the importance of sex. And don't allow people to fearmonger you either. And don't allow people to make you go loosey-goosey all over the place. Everything that we experience on this plane is an experience where you get the chance to learn about yourself and others. When you are embarking on this journey, it's best to kind of know and have a baseline of what you want to experience, because that is what it is first. And then understanding that there's a spiritual, energetic essence that follows this equation as well. So as you discover, don't be scared, but just be cautious. Understand this is actually a really big deal, and you have to be intentional about what you want, how you want it, why you want it, and where you want it, right? Because it's going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. And if you're not mature enough to understand the responsibility that is carried with the weight of involving yourself in sexual endeavors, then you probably should hold off for a little while and go through some real self-introspection to understand exactly what you have going on and why you're trying to embark on this journey. And there's no shame here, because as I grew older, I understood that sex isn't just physical, it's energetic as well. It took me time to learn that and understand that. It's an exchange, and it can either nourish you or drain you. When you sleep with someone, you don't just share your body, you share your subconscious, your traumas, your energy, and you don't even know what's going on in your own subconscious, let alone what's going on in theirs. You're opening yourself up to pick up their traumas and their energies and their moods, and even some of the stuff that they may have in their genetic DNA, their timeline. Some say even generational curses. You're picking up their frequencies. And honestly, if you're not spiritually or emotionally cleansed, that energy can linger. There can be times that you think that you're tired or sad for no reason, but baby, that reason might be in your bed, okay? And that's the other thing to highlight and point out. Sometimes people are jumping in bed with people and they're not realizing that they don't even know themselves. You don't know if you're in your luteal phase. You don't know if you're harboring any past energies or heartbreaks or experiences that are making you react the way that you're reacting. You don't know what it could be that's shifting your energy. And oftentimes you're not even emotionally or energetically sensitive enough to pick up on that shift the second that it happens. That's why I always say, before you worry about body count, ask yourself about energetic count first. How many energies are sitting in your spirit that you don't even know about, that aren't even yours? And when we talk about energy, oftentimes people don't incorporate a lot, or maybe they don't know a lot about energy within itself. And we're going to add the energetic, emotional list here too, so that you guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from. When you are in a low vibrational energy, emotionally, you pick up things that you don't necessarily want to pick up. You're in a high vibrational, emotional energy, you pick up things and it kind of rejuvenates you. It revitalizes you, and the energy just builds upon itself yourself, and it almost feels like you're on this energetic or emotional high. So even though we know that we're transferring energy, we don't want to beat ourselves up about past energies that we probably passed on with other people, or the fact that we're not sure that we're making the right decision, or maybe we're stuck with a person. You don't want to get stuck in that paradigm, because it can lower your vibration and attract more of those energies to you. You want to feel empowered through this. You want to understand and trust yourself and prove to yourself that you can trust yourself in making decisions when you're interacting with people on these levels, because you'll oftentimes shame yourself and feel guilty about it for yourself and beat yourself up. So you're not going to be able to experience it and understand that. Let's get back to the basics. It's about pleasure. It's something that's spiritual. It's something that's energetic. It's something that can heal you. There's a lot of positive to it. Unfortunately, the human paradigm is going to put negativity on things, especially this topic that's pretty taboo, something that people are using for control instead of something that's going to provide some freedom, understanding, and clarity. There's a lot of fear mongering behind it, and in that, it will lower your energetic vibration and your experience when you are indulging in this pleasure receptor. Okay, we have to keep in mind that pleasure is a good thing. It's when you overindulge in pleasure is when it becomes a bad thing, or perceived bad thing, or drags down your energy and adds some weight to your aura. Understanding that pleasure can lift your spirits. Pleasure can recreate all type of stuff in your paradigm. It can help you manifest. So when you shun it, when you don't understand the energetic value of it, it can put you in situations where you might end up a little confused. And we don't like confusion. We don't like being in gray area. We want to have clarity, be empowered in that clarity. And if we think about the state of the world and how sometimes things can be perverted and how things can be so low vibrational, dark, or even heavy to be around and experience, it's because we're removing pleasure. There are so many people that demonize a pure amount of pleasure. It makes life kind of yuck. Life becomes this black hole in a cloudy space when life should have pleasure. We should be able to enjoy pleasure and not feel guilty about that. When we have sex for superficial reasons, it leaves behind a certain emptiness, one that a lot of people are trying to escape from. When you have a lot of people trying to escape from the boredom or the pain or responsibilities, and they're just trying to feel good and feel something, they don't realize, yes, you can indulge in the activity for as long as you indulge in it, but once you leave, after a while, you'll start to feel empty, because you're going after it for surface reasons. You're going after it with no real intention that you're bored, or you're trying to escape, or you're trying to prove something to yourself. Even as I explain that and I feel that, I feel like I'm giving away energy. I'm pouring out of my cup. And that's exactly what's happening. You're not able to pour back into yourself energetically or spiritually, because you're trying to run away from something instead of being able to sit still, sit with self, and expand. You don't want to drain your life force energy, because that indeed is what that is. You want to be able to indulge in encounters that rejuvenate you. And broken people, they attract more broken people. So if you think about it, you're opening yourself up in a very vulnerable way with somebody that you might not even be able to be verbally vulnerable with. And you're sharing and intertwining this experience and this energy with them, not knowing what they're carrying, not even knowing what you're carrying, not realizing what you have to face and what you have to overcome energetically or emotionally. You guys are just like intertwining that energy together. And this is not to shame you, like, this is just speaking straight facts. This is something that happens on a daily, right? But oftentimes when you do that, you don't realize that is being carried with you, and it shows up as heavy energy. It can be trauma that's being interchanged with you guys. And I know that we all heard of trauma bonding, right? So you can verbally trauma bond with someone, but when you're having sex with someone, now you're energetically bonding with that trauma as well. And sometimes we don't necessarily associate this together, but I'm seeing it in my mind's eye, so I'm gonna go ahead and discuss it. When you're interacting and indulging with a person in this energy, you're both in this energy, you kind of feel like you can't get them off your mind, or sometimes you dream of them. And sometimes dreams are just your subconscious telling you what you've been dealing with in your waking life. And then there's other times where you're meeting in the spiritual realm and you are allowing yourself to be attached to this person because there's a different type of bond that you've created. Even though it's unintentional, it's also very intentional because you have not decided and you have not claimed your own power of your paradigm and understanding that whatever you think and believe is going to manifest in your reality. So you haven't decided to shut it out. You know what I mean? And you can't decide because life is kind of chaotic. You have a lot of stuff going on clearly because you're running from everything. So when you think about it in that retrospect, it helps clear some things up that there might be a lot that you got to clear up in your energetic body because of the sexual encounters that you've had. And when you align with people that aren't aware, aren't conscious, aren't doing the spiritual cleansings, a lot of people use sex to entrap someone. A lot of people use sex for control. And we don't really think about it like that. When you have sex with somebody, all of a sudden you have this obligation and expectation of them that no one verbally agreed to. But because you energetically, sexually indulge in this physical contract, the mental and the verbal and the conscious and the unconscious is not in communication with what you jumped to. So a lot of times there's confusion, there's anger, there's sadness, there's misrepresentation, there's manipulation, because now you feel like you own this person because you had their body. And even if you don't want a relationship with this person, you still feel like in a sense you own this person because you know them in a very intimate way, in a very intimate setting. You had their body, you understand how they are, and you understand them on a whole nother level, because you got to think about it. Sex isn't just sex. It's a whole nother realm of communication as well. If you think about when people are insecure about their body, they move a certain type of way. They react a certain type of way. They may not necessarily verbally say that they're insecure about their body, but the way they operate when you're about to have sex or when you're engaging in that activity, it tells you something. There's a lot of communication that's happening. What people like and what they dislike, how they deal with you, what positions they do. And even when it comes to like not looking at someone's face, you know, there's so much being said and communicated, but you're not communicating verbally. You're not communicating from your heart space. You're not in tune and on the same page energetically or from your heart space. And that's when a lot of people walk away from the equation feeling drained or feeling used and abused because there was something missing. It's not just the sex was good or the sex was bad. There's another energetic aspect that's just kind of in limbo, and nobody is setting intention to have this high vibrational experience with the person that they're sharing this very delicate, tender, vulnerable, and powerful moment with. You may think that you can escape what comes with bringing on all of that heaviness and energy transfer, but you're not going to escape it, baby. You can run as fast and as far as you can, mentally, physically, energetically. You can be on a go, hustling, and you may think that you're just trying to scratch this itch, because let's face it, everybody gets aroused, whether it's the time of the month, whether you're looking at something that's attractive to you, whether somebody is saying the right things, whether it's just been a long time. There's so much going on, and unless you're honest about it, the more entrapped you are with a lot of these energies as well. So if you think about it, at some point you're gonna have to pause, you're gonna have to stop. The running is not gonna be able to last forever, and eventually that energy is going to catch up to you and hit you like a ton of bricks. You're not gonna understand what happened and why it happened, but just know, just because it's not impeding on your life and your energy and your life force now because you're busy and you're distracted with all of the things that you have going on and all of the things that you're doing, you may think that you're living your best life because you're going out, you're having fun, you look good, you're young, you're healthy. But I promise you, at some point in time, when you align with these people that are not intentional and you're also not intentional, at some point it's going to pull at you. At some point it's going to drain you and hit you like a ton of bricks. At some point it's going to start to manifest in different areas of your life, and you'll never really know where it manifests in your life because, like I said before, energy is fluid. There's no compartmentalizing it. So wherever you are and whatever you're taking on and attaching yourself to, there's a lot that you're going to have to detach from and cleanse out of your energy and start to become more aware, because you're not able to sit with yourself and be silent and understand what's going on energetically. Even if you're with a partner, you can't always trust your partner. You don't know what they got going on. But when you sit with yourself and start to heighten your awareness of what you're transferring with people, that's when you'll be able to learn how to cleanse this energy and also choose better. Let's try to reclaim some of our energy by diving deeper into what's happening happening and refocusing on exactly what's going on in our paradigm and when we exchange these energies with people. After intimacy, do you feel lighter or heavier, energized or foggy? Whose moods or worries have you been carrying that aren't yours? If your spirit could speak after sex, what would it say most often? Thank you, help, or never again? Spiritual hygiene is just as important as physical hygiene. We talk about STD test, but not enough about energetic detox. Learning how to clear our aura after sex, fasting from sex, being intentional about touch. That's protection too. Sometimes sex will make you feel light, open, inspired, because it's aligned with your spirit. Oftentimes it might leave you foggy, anxious, or insecure because your body and your energy and your spirit and your intuition knew something that your mind ignored. And this is the reason why I always say the body never lies. In retrospect, between body and energy, we often don't realize that we store a lot of trauma in the body. We all know this, right? What about these experiences that we're having with people as well? We may also be storing that in our body too. So when you're storing these energies in your body, you never really know what you're storing and what you're picking up in your body. You don't even know what you got going on in your body. You don't even know what you have going on in your energy. You're not fully aware of what you need to heal in your own energy, and then you're laying with somebody that is probably in the same state. We all never really know, right? And when we lay down with these people, we wonder why we feel off, or we feel away, or we feel like there's a gaping hole, or we feel like we're not loved. And you think you're choosing this lifestyle. You think you're in control because you're making the adult decision to say, I want to interact and connect with this person in this way. But in all actuality, if you really think about it, you don't know what you're picking up. It's not like a screen pops up and there's a list of everything that this person hasn't healed and been through and projecting onto you and sharing with you. You don't know. It's not like you can take a spiritual test the way you would take an STD test to discover exactly what's going on and happening. A lot of people don't even know what traumas and issues they got going on and what they're going through in their life and how it's really affecting them energetically and how that's manifesting in the physical in different ailments that you may experience. You don't know. And this is not to fearmonger you. This is just to get you thinking and understanding so that you can start fine-tuning in who you choose and have more discernment in who you are operating with. But oftentimes when you're trying to do this to impress somebody, or you're trying to do this to get somebody to do something, maybe you're trying to do this to just feel good and scratch this itch. Well, you're trying to do it for all of these outside topical reasons. It will absolutely drain you because of the intention. The intention is not aligned with love. And when we think about love, love is freedom, love is wisdom, love is knowing, love is faith. Do you see what I'm saying? But when you're not in love, but you feel like it's love, you get possessive and you want to hold that person hostage and you want to own that person and you want to see what they're doing. And now they got to tell you what they're doing and where they at and what they got going on. And really, it's not about that. Mentally, logically, that makes sense. But logic is not always in alignment with spirit, okay? So that's something else to think about when you decide who you want to lay with. Just because they talking smooth and they look good and they smell good and they're in position and they got this going on, they got that. None of that is a reason to say, I want to lay with you. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people are using your body to get over an experience or an ex or a tough time. And that sadness, they feel like they're healing, but really they're just using you as a dump truck and they're dumping all of this energy into this energetic landfill that you have because they're trying to escape what they're experiencing. And oftentimes you'll get mad about that, but you wouldn't get mad if you had discernment. You wouldn't get mad if you were fine-tuning your energy and feeling the heaviness that this person is carrying and understanding that they're in a rush. What they in a rush for? Let's slow this down. What's going on? I'm not saying that you should be a virgin until you're married. I'm not saying that you should be a slut until you're married. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that it's time to start paying attention to the energetic value that we're transferring when it comes to sex. And you're not going to know, like I said, you're not going to know what everybody else has going on. Shouldn't necessarily worry about what everybody else has going on because worry is the cousin of fear, right? It's going to bring your vibration down. It's going to align you with more of what you're worried about because that's what you're focused on. But when you start to heal and cleanse in your own energy, you're able to navigate these spaces better where you can choose better partners and you're able to see what we call the red flags, right? Once you start recognizing the red flags, you'll know, okay, I don't want to really share my body with this person because there's something off and I'm not going to wait around to see what's off. I don't care. I just know that I'm no longer aligned. I'm not interested and I'm not turned on by it. When you recalibrate your energy, that's when you're able to not be turned on by your usual type. Whatever your type is, you'll be able to see through this rose-colored glass that you have going on, and you'll be able to choose better aligned partners that you won't have to. I feel like you should always do a cleanse, honestly, because I don't know anybody that's perfect in this plane. At the same time, it won't feel so heavy. You'll be able to gain from the experience rather than lose and feel like you have a void or a gaping hole growing bigger and bigger because you're trying to run from something. Something else that's really interesting that I've noticed in thinking about this discussion with sex is the fact that there's a correlation between food and sex, right? If we think about energetic value and how it transfers through person to person, or object through object, thing through thing, life force to life force. When you think about food, when people used to say you are what you eat, when I was really young and naive, I used to laugh and say, okay, so I'm going to turn into a cow. And we used to think that was funny. It wasn't funny. But really what that means is you're picking up the energy and the energetic value of the food that you eat and you put into your body, because energy is not destroyed, it's just transferred. So the state of living conditions of that being, when you get the meat and you eat the meat, you notice if you're very fine-tuned to energy, you will absolutely notice that your mood will change. Sometimes you might feel a little depressed or low or down. You might have the itis and you don't necessarily know exactly what's going on. And we always blame the chemicals that they put inside of the food, but the energetic value of that animal, that species, or whatever they are feeding us is going to reflect in us. And that is exactly the same when you take on the body, when you take on the experience, when you take on the essence, when you open up and you invite this energy into your being. It's the same type of vibe. And a lot of people think they're healing because one person will walk away from the experience feeling much better because they had the intention to feel better through the sex. And you might be like, oh, I'm going to receive this because they're really good at it and it's going to feel good to me, not knowing you're inviting this energy in. When you start to align better with yourself, you start to realize that the people that you're choosing to align with, they probably aren't the best candidates. And honestly, you might get to a point like me where nobody really seems worth it. You know what I mean? It doesn't even matter if it feels good. It doesn't matter what this person will give or nothing matters anymore if I'm not getting a certain type of vibration and energy from the experience. If I can't feel safe with you, then I don't want to share my body with you. If I can't feel comfortable with you, then it's really a waste of time. And there's other things that I can use this life force energy to do that will provide a higher vibration in my life and give me more blessings and bless up my experience of my reality. The energy can be poured into something else other than a person. But if you feel like you're running from something, then 9 times out of 10, you need to clean your energy. You need to sit with self. You need to get down to the nitty-gritty of exactly what's going on, because you're running from something. And when you're running, you're leaking all of your energy all over the place. Another aspect of energy, even attached to sex, is emotions. And I know this because I used to run from my emotions all the time. I didn't have the luxury to sit in my emotions. I didn't have the luxury to nurture myself and give myself the love and the nurture that I needed. It wasn't until I was forced to sit down that I was able to sift through those energies, and everything started pouring all over me. It felt like I got hit with a ton of bricks. After that, I was able to see the energy much better. I was able to pick up on things that I wasn't necessarily able to pick up before, because now I'm not uncomfortable sitting still. I'm not uncomfortable observing. I'm not uncomfortable being aware. I'm able to peep like, oh, there's a shift in this energy. There's a shift in this understanding. Let me pay attention. So at that point, I was able to realize, oh, this is making me feel this way, and that is also making me feel this way. And I didn't realize that this had a factor as well. And people can tell you all day, you can read this in books, but it's different when you take the wisdom within and you experience it in your own journey. That's when it really turns into wisdom, because now you really understand and you know. And there's no shame in all of this. This is just what it is. But going back to it, like, I didn't have the luxury to care that I was hurt. I didn't have the luxury to care that I was experiencing what I was experiencing. I was just trying to get it in and get it done, whatever it was, whether it was money or distractions or whatever. And a lot of times when you think about the food relation to it, when you're on the go and you're eating fast food and you're eating out, you don't have time to pour into yourself and cook and go grocery shopping and do the things that you need to do to actually get minerals and nutrients. Sex is the same. When you're on the go and you're trying to get it fast and you're just trying to scratch this itch so that you can go ahead and focus on exactly what you need to focus on and get this work done and be a girl boss and be a boy boss or whatever it is you're trying to achieve, you realize you're running on fumes. But when you have somebody that you're interconnected with, somebody that is actually pouring into you and you're pouring into them, and it's nurturing and it's healing and it's high vibrational, you're not running on fumes, you're running on nutrients. That's the correlation between the two. It's very easy to see when it comes to food, but I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to it when it comes to relationships with sex. Baby, if you can't trust the person that you're sleeping next to, not even just sleeping with, sleeping next to, watch how it starts to poke holes in whatever plans you have for the future. And you can't replace a person and not replace what you have going on within yourself. You have to remove things and heal things and clear things before you can move on into the next healing. But there's no shame. It's all understandable because a lot of us don't know what the hell is going on, and we don't know what's happening because nobody is talking about it, because the conversation is taboo, because you're looked at like a freak or eccentric if you talk about it. And this is grown-up stuff, okay? If somebody is being childish and they're trying to label people by having a conversation, they're immature and their brain capacity is not enough to hold a feather. So at the end of the day, we have to start reflecting and thinking and paying attention to exactly what's going on. But how do you do that? You sit still, you fast, you remove it, you get rid of it. But it's important to understand that just because you're numbing your emotions and you're numbing how you feel and you're just paying attention to what you think matters and you think that that's protection, that's not protection. That is actually self-sabotage. You're willingly blinding yourself from very important aspects because you feel like the very important aspects are too heavy for you to investigate. This is where you have to start being open. This is where you have to start being aware. You have to take the blinders off. It's not cute to walk around and act like sex is just something to do or it's just something fun to do and it's nothing more and nothing less than the experience and you're moving on to the next one. You're not a bad bee. You're not a tough guy. You're not the big man on campus. You're a walking hazard when you're in that energy. Very much rooted in self-sabotage. And you don't even know it because you think you're protecting yourself. But in all actuality, protecting yourself is feeling everything, not running from anything, nothing internal, going within and excavating what you got going on. Because once you share your body with somebody, you're not going to understand why you don't feel good. Just because you're working out, just because you're taking care of yourself, just because you're eating healthy does not mean you have gone and dug within deep to fine tune your energy so that you can have a better antenna system in order to have a better discernment and selection of who you choose to lay down with. Even when we get into that, we can also talk about the fact that a lot of people don't even have self-control. At some point, there's a breaking point where they give in. And even that is lack of knowledge of self as well. So when you're laying with these other people, even if you have a good diet, you're still aligning with people that are an energetic dumping ground, landfill, okay? And you picking up some of that too. And that's why sometimes you just feel heavy and you don't feel good and you're mean and you're angry and you're arguing with strangers on the internet. So you got to clear that, okay? When you're in that energy, you don't see exactly what's going on. And oftentimes you will be confused. You won't know why your life is in shambles. You may be doing all of the right things in life, but at the end of the day, things are still falling apart all over the place. It's because you're leaking energetic value. You're leaking, you're sharing, you're picking up all type of stuff and you're not aware because you're not paying attention. How do you currently test for health in a physical sense? How do you test for health in an energetic sense? What's your post-intimacy ritual, if you have any? Is it breath work, prayer, a bath, journaling, meditation, movement, or just sitting quiet? What would your 30-day energetic detox from porn, people, and patterns look like for you? I hope you don't feel like I'm beating up on you, because I'm not. And I know that even with this discussion, it can feel like you're feeling guilty when you think about what you've done. You have to love and appreciate who you are in all your stages. You have to bring that version of you in like it's your child and give it the love and the nurture that you feel like you wanted and you needed from your parents or your guardians, right? That's how you start to heal some of this stuff. In order to get past the feeling of guilt, you have to accept yourself. You have to accept the decisions that you made. Oh my goodness, I don't know why I feel like somebody might be crying right now, but if you are, yes, release, because when you cry, you also release the nerve endings, the dead nerve endings, and it's a healing experience as well. You're releasing the emotions that you were holding on to and the guilt that you were holding on to, baby, I hope you boohoo cry, get it out, okay? But this is not a space to make you feel guilty. This is a space to face it, and that's maturity for you. When you face it, when you acknowledge it, when you handle it, that will bring so much energy and confirmation and dignity into your life force being, which will also help you in that area. Because before we get into guilt really quick, I want to acknowledge that sometimes people are not having sex. Sometimes they're not feeling aroused because at the end of the day, there's so much guilt that's trapping and blocking their life force essence. And we have to dismantle that. We have to get down to the root cause of exactly what's happening. And I feel like maybe at some point I probably felt guilt for myself as well. I just thought about an experience. I definitely have felt guilt too, but I had to come to terms with understanding that I'm experimenting. I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm trying to figure out what I want, and I'm trying to figure out what feels good to me. And I'm trying to understand other people as well. And some of these decisions and experiences I embarked on, thank God I'm healthy and I don't have to worry about anything. But at the same time, like, there's a toll emotionally certain decisions take on you, and that's okay. We're just facing it and laying it all out there and organizing everything to kind of figure out exactly what's going on and where we're at with it and what our understanding is and where it's coming from, where we think we might get these belief systems from, and whether they serve us or not. Do they serve us? And we don't have to jump into the pool, the deep end of being empowered and fighting back. Like, calm down. We're just trying to give grace right now. That's what stage we're in. We're in the stage of grace. But a lot of guilt around sex comes from fear that you'll be judged, fear that you'll lose your value. And that's human. That's real. You know, I've definitely seen how that transpires. There's still people fighting for their life, trying to get away and move away and grow out of the allegations of their past. Kim Kardashian. And it doesn't matter what you accomplish, people will still hold that against you. They will still hold what they believe is promiscuous behavior against you. They won't let you grow. They won't let you go. And it's a heavy, heavy topic, because at the end of the day, you got to think about who's doing that. Other people that made themselves suffer in this realm, they also uphold that standard and that patriarchy and that control, that heaviness, that imprisonment that none of us like. Some of us want to escape, especially some women and men. I don't talk about men because I don't have any men that I can discuss this with. So I can't really speak for men for real, except for experiencing them, right? But I'm sure that there's women and men that don't ever really experience true openness and vulnerability in the realm of sex. And they are not able to experience it as pleasure. They may experience it in lust. They may not experience it in pleasure. When we think about pleasure and lust, really it's, are you in a high vibration of accepting and loving self, or are you living in fear? Because fear is the lowest vibration you can bring into a divine act. It'll keep you distracted from your own body and your own power. When you approach sex from love, self-love, not obsession or control, you raise the vibration of the act itself. You'll automatically move from the feeling of lust into pleasure. You'll go from the energy of trying to escape to embodiment, from giving your power away to co-creating an experience. A lot of people that discuss sex, they often talk about it like it's its own entity. But we have to remember, the human race is a very powerful entity, okay? And our power begins in our belief system and our intentions. So if you have guilt surrounding this act, if you feel shame around sex, it's setting the stage to already have some sort of negative experience when it comes to it. And you're not going to feel safe, you're not going to feel comfortable, and you're not going to be able to experience it the way you need to experience, especially for women, okay? For women, it takes time for us to climax. It takes time for us to really get into this energy. And that's because we're not comfortable. It's ironic that people shame women for having sex that want to have good sex with women, because oftentimes it will be those very people that shame you or make you feel guilty that are saying that it's not hidden the way it should. And it's not hidden the way it should because you're not comfortable. You don't feel love. You don't feel trust. You don't feel nourishment. You don't feel intention. You don't feel vulnerability. As you get older and as you start to decenter men, you'll start to realize that when you're not performing, you perform better. In order for a woman to have an amazing experience in sex, she has to be open and vulnerable vulnerable. But you can't be open and vulnerable with somebody that's always attacking you or shaming your body or shaming your mindset or shaming what you have going on. And you're definitely not going to open up if you're the person in the mirror telling yourself all the same things. If you know you're not the evolution and growth that you need to do in order to feel whole, in order to feel satiated, then babes, you're not going to have the greatest experiences, no matter how good it feels on the surface in the physical. It can feel great in the surface in the physical, but it feels euphoric when you are whole within and you're sharing your essence with somebody else that's whole within. You can't do that with negative belief systems. You manifest from your belief system. And a lot of people have infiltrated your paradigm and convinced you that certain things are bad. Babes, the human psyche is going to create whatever it believes. So if you look at something that's supposed to be good as bad, then it's always going to be bad. It's always going to be some type of negative. There's always going to be a story or a tweet or a TikTok or Instagram feed or an experience that's going to prove you right every time. It's time to shift your paradigm. It's time to strip all of the belief systems that maybe religion, maybe your community, maybe your family has put into your subconscious. And it's up to you to do that. You don't even know how powerful you are when it starts from your mental. Your mentality holds a lot of your power, not just sex. Before you even get to sex, your beliefs around sex is going to shape your experience with sex. And again, I gotta say it, I'm so happy that my mother said what she said to me when I was younger, because I saw it as pleasure. I didn't attach my pleasure and my energy and my power to someone outside of myself. It's mine. And while we get to experience it together, I'm not going to be shy or feel guilty for experiencing it, because I know my intention. My intention is I want this to feel really good. I want to feel safe. I want to feel understood. I want to feel taken care of. And automatically the woman is going to create a fertile ground where it's going to build on itself. That even sounds different. That doesn't even sound like it has any type of guilt at all embedded in it, right? But we have guilt because we're listening to what other people are saying. We're listening to body count. We're listening to the people that are saying that certain bodies aren't attractive. If you don't think your body is attractive, then you are the problem. If you really loved yourself, if you really valued your body, nothing that anybody else would say would affect you and how you view your body. If you really loved your personality, if you really loved yourself, nothing that anybody else said would make you feel like you have to prove anything to someone or even harm you. We got to start there. Why are we sharing our bodies when we're not even feeling comfortable within ourselves? When we are also the villain and the victim in the same body. We're looking at ourselves as not being worthy. We're allowing people that are emotionally regressed to tell us what's best for them. I would not try to convince somebody that my body is worthy and my pleasure is worthy. I'm just going to align the people that think that it is. Or I'm going to pleasure myself until I embody that essence that I love myself and I feel sexy. I'm aroused by me. And I don't know if that's gay, okay? I'm not sure if that's gay. I don't know. I think that you don't count. But really, that's what it boils down to. And when you're having sex for topical reasons, that's when it starts to feel like lust. I think when you think that God is outside of you and God is not also within you, experiencing your experiences that you experience as well, that's where we kind of get this confusion, because it's almost like, oh my God, does God see me doing this? Of course God sees you doing this, because God is experiencing it with you, because you are also a piece of God. You know, you have to start understanding it is okay and natural to have sex and indulge in pleasure. It's when you do it too much that is not okay. Remember, if you drink too much water, you're going to drown. If you have too much sex, something that is supposed to feel whole and replenish you is going to start feeling empty. And when you allow other people into your paradigm and tell you what's good and tell you what's bad, that's when you feel guilty. But if you are allowing somebody that you want to be intimate with to tell you something like that, then you have to start thinking about your decisions and who you're choosing to align to. You should be appalled by somebody that's telling you that you're not attractive and your body is not cute and that your stretch marks are ugly. Babes, are you sticking it in my stretch marks or are you sticking it in my cootie cat? Because it's giving gay. And if you want that, that's fine. I don't have any issue with that. But I think that you should go carry along and go find somebody that's more aligned to you. You care about things that don't matter. Think about that. When you align to someone that cares about something that really doesn't matter. And if you feel like it does matter, then take the necessary precautions to ensure that you feel comfortable with yourself. The natural way, do the hard work, face the obstacle and overcome the obstacle. And understand the same energy that was trying to talk to you, wouldn't touch you with a long handled spoon or a stick, cannot experience you now that you poured into yourself. When you understand spiritual work, you understand that you don't want to be in fear-based energy, because when you're in fear-based energy, you start collecting all the things that's down there in that fear-based manifestation. And if you think about it, the state of the world, there is a lot swimming in that low vibrational pool, a lot more than the high vibrational pool. So when it comes to sex, you don't want to align and call in and attract any of that stuff and be fooled by the false mask or what they're portraying themselves to be, right? You don't want to catch none of that stuff down there. You want to evolve out of it. You have to learn how to take in the information that you need and navigate these waters properly, because if you heard everything that I said and you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's why I don't lay with nobody, I'm not doing nothing with nobody, and this one, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's that fear-based mentality. You're trying to run away from it. You're trying to escape it instead of facing it and learning what the balance is, the happy nature of this experience when it relates to you is. You have to learn how to navigate these waters. I often think about it like this. I'm so glad that I learned everything that I learned from a young age, and I did not give a crap about how people viewed me. I didn't give a crap about what people said about me, because I would much rather make the mistakes while I was young and everybody else was considering me to be dumb than to be old and then trying to figure this out at an old age. Like, no, I want to enjoy my experience. Everybody's path and plan is different. Even if you are just now figuring it out and you're 67 or you're 50, it doesn't matter, because you're in a better paradigm. Now your paradigm is in fertile soil where you can have this experience in a more mature manner and see it from your own belief system and not something that's borrowed from someone else. Just remember that your belief system is the thing that's navigating this ship. So you have to learn how to tread these waters. And sometimes you got to tread them lightly. Sometimes you got to dive in. Also, what I think people often forget is the fact that we incarnated on Earth for experience. We're supposed to experience things. So when you come and incarnate on this plane and you're trying to experience, you can't always learn from somebody else's account and somebody else's story. Sometimes you have to walk that walk yourself. But oftentimes you have to have the courage to learn on your own and learn how not to shame yourself when you're learning these experiences, because that's exactly what you came here to do. How ridiculous is that? That you're shaming yourself for doing exactly what you came here to do. You're coming here to experience something and learn something. And the only way you can do that is to walk the path on your own. And I know a lot of this fear-based energy is coming from religion as well, but there is a positive aspect of religion that I feel like a lot of people don't think outside the box with. They don't think about it on their own. They're just listening to what other people are teaching them and telling them that they should believe, right? But I love how a lot of religions depict a prophet's walk, right? Especially like Jesus' walk, okay? Because the story is told from when he's born all the way until he's crucified. A lot of the elevation that you need to have is to walk as Jesus did. And a lot of people are, let's just face it, they're full of SHIT, okay? Because Jesus was friends with everybody. And even now we're starting to discover that some of these characters in these stories aren't even what they're translated to be in the stories that we know. But Jesus didn't judge, for real, because Jesus understood what was happening. He understood not to judge himself, right? Oftentimes when people tell you, just do this, just do that, just do this, it's not enough to keep you on that path forever. You will always find yourself regress. You will always find yourself dabbling in it again, or, oh, I'll just do a little bit here and a little bit there, because you didn't walk the walk and you don't understand how important it is to move away from those things, and how those things will also pull you down into a vibration you don't want to be in. When it comes to my faith with the divine, right? I understand that I need to listen. If I get an inkling, I don't care who looks at me and who thinks that I'm crazy. I understand my communication and my relationship with the divine to the fact that I will make a move even if it makes me look crazy, and I don't care who's watching, because I've walked the walk, and in that walk I became disciplined. In that walk I've gained discernment. So I will never waver on when God is telling me to do something. I'm going to make sure I execute what I need to execute, because I get how serious it is. I've already had my hand smacked a million times. I'm not going to have it smacked 1,000,001. I learned from it. It has a deeper meaning. I have wisdom now. So now I know I'm not going to do it. It doesn't matter. And I'm not going to force anybody else to see it my way. I understand you have to honor everybody else's journey, even if their journey doesn't look anything like yours. So when we think about that, right, and we think about the guilt that we might feel because we're engaging in this sexual act or whatever, as long as we're not taking away somebody else's free will, because that's a huge no-no energetically and spiritually, as long as we're not robbing someone of their innocence, then, you know, for the most part, we're good. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but for the most part, we're good. In order for us to feel safe and secure, empowered in sex, we have to be comfortable and we have to accept ourselves. The whole purpose and point of being on earth is not to avoid experiences and not to avoid lessons, but to try to indulge in them with the best knowledge and the best discernment and the best tools that we have. And we will learn from that. Even if it's not tidy and perfect, it doesn't matter. You are experiencing something so that you can learn something. When you think about things as good and bad, you're already setting yourself up to go through a loophole of failure. Everything on this plane is about action and reaction. When you do something, you get some type of response, and it's up to you whether the response you get is something of your liking or whether it's aligned with where you're trying to go in your destination. That's how you discover it. That's how you figure everything out. It's not about respectability, politics, or shaming or not shaming. It's not about that. What do you want in the long run? And are these decisions that you're making now going to lead you to that destination? And indulging in experiences is not always going to look clean to you. You don't necessarily have to get all trampy and slutty or gaudy, and you don't always have to be super purist and pristine. You have to find your medium by exploring what feels good to you. Who are you in these experiences? What is the response of the other individual outside of yourself? How does that make you feel? What is your spirit telling you? What is your spirit trying to tell you? Sometimes we demonize something that could be a blessing. Our paradigm is always trying to make something good and bad and evil and a hero. And we always think about the end result. When we think about the end result of the hero being the hero and the bad guy being the bad guy, we don't ever look at their origin story, why they're even like that. Sometimes the hero can be a hero because of something tragic that happened, and sometimes the villain can be the villain. They weren't supported in their journey in trying to navigate these spaces, or maybe they did what they thought was right, or maybe they had to push down how they felt, and in pushing down and not facing how they felt and not being honest about how they felt, they had a breaking point. There's a lot that we can learn from a lot of the cinema that we have and the beliefs that we have, but there's also a lot that we can get rid of, because you're supposed to be trying to find your balance. What's your balance? What's your happy medium? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel safe? What is conducive to your plans in your life and your purpose? Is it leading you there? Are the things that you're engaging leading you to where you want to be? Are you proud of who you are and how you show up? Are you prudish? Are you mean to people because you're not experiencing any type of pleasure, whether it be food or sex? It doesn't matter. Sometimes things carry with you for the rest of your life, and other times they don't. Sometimes you just have to F around and find out. You just have to grow through it. As long as you grow through the thing, you'll be fine. There's nothing to really worry about because you're figuring it all out, and you have to give yourself grace with that, and you have to have patience with that, because you're not going to get it on the first try or the 100th try. You're not going to understand what your groove is as long as there's any type of guilt that's involved in the process. When there's fear and guilt, it kind of holds you back. And oftentimes we allow other people to bully us and make us feel like we have to fit into this container in order to be pristine and be valued in society. But no one is the same. No one is perfect. Everyone is starting at a different point of the start line, different flavors going on in their background and in their future and in their environment. There's no way you can expect everybody to sit in a container and thrive. Everybody is not able to fly. So when you put a fish or a turtle up to the test to fly, they're going to fail every time because you're deciding where the bar is, and the bar is not suitable for everybody else. And when you start understanding that, when you gain knowledge and understanding, you start to realize how ridiculous it is to feel guilty in the first place, because you're giving power to something that shouldn't hold power in your paradigm. You're putting something in position above you when you should be the very thing at the top in your reality. And even when you place yourself at the top, you have to realize that there's still learning to be done. So there's still people that you have to listen to, right? And there's people that I will listen to and I'll take information from that other people will turn their nose up to. Because if you think about the 304s, I think they are. I think that's how they refer to themselves on TikTok. I don't even know what it stands for, but I kind of got an idea of what it is. Okay, don't judge me. There's information that they know as well, and it's not all about men and it's not all about sex. They have wonderful hygiene tips that they've already shared with the community. They probably might teach you a little bit more than your gynae can teach you or has said to you ever. So respecting people and respecting their knowledge is because you understand that they took the time to walk down their path and figure out the knowledge that they have. They have lived experiences, and nothing tops lived experiences. And you just never know what people know from what they do, and it might not even correlate in your mind to what they do, but they could definitely teach you something. And you can be a wealth of knowledge as well if you aren't scared and you actually step out on that platform to learn something and experience something. Usually people have to hit the bottom in order to rise to the top. So, put some respect on some people's name, okay? Being fearful and waiting on everybody else to fail has never gotten anybody anywhere. And you sometimes have to have courage, and you have to see things through, and you have to go through the experiences in order to learn and understand things, and obviously see things from a different perspective and broaden your awareness and broaden your paradigm. Because if you stay the same and do the same thing and you're trying to shelter yourself to protect yourself, then guess what? You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to be interesting because you're scared, because you have guilt, because you have fear. Oftentimes when we move the veil from sex and the discussion around sex and remove the fact that we think it's taboo, you learn a lot of things. You know what I mean? When you're scared and you don't go and see and investigate and see what's on the other side, you'll only know this small world that you're in. It even comes down to the studies. As women, we have to figure ourselves out, because a lot of the scientific studies that we hear when they say things are good, they're doing the studies on men. They're not even doing the studies on women. Something comes to mind. I think I heard that cold plunges actually aren't good for women. And when you think about Chinese medicine and you get out of the realm of Western medicine and you start to go into that realm of learning something different from a different culture, you realize that women need a lot of warmth. If you understand anything about our body and our biology, our reproductive systems are in our bodies. So our extremities usually are cold. That's why your feet and your hands are cold. But for men, their reproductive system is outside of their bodies. So their entire body is usually warm. Those are simple little things, but it makes a difference in understanding self. So we letting people tell us something about ourselves and about our sexuality and how we're supposed to operate and behave. And they're not doing it for our best interest. They're not doing it because it's going to help us grow and evolve and blossom. They're doing it because they're trying to control the narrative of us so that they can protect their own ego. And that's why everything is messed up, because everything is so unnatural. People wanted to imprison the woman's body. Oftentimes people are trying to lay claim through sex on another person, and you don't own another person. How many years of slavery have we seen? We know it's not right? It's not right to own another person, but we think that it's okay when it comes to sexuality, and it's never okay. And I know for the people that haven't done the work, they're trying to figure out, how am I gonna know that my partner is not gonna go and step out on me and do all of these things if I don't lay this standard or this boundary? A lot of you all think that laying standards and boundaries is actually imprisoning somebody, and it's not. You actually want somebody to show you exactly who they are when they're comfortable so that you can align with somebody better, okay? You want to align with somebody that has the moral compass, the emotional intelligence, the same belief systems that you have. You don't want to pull somebody off the street that has nothing in common with you at all whatsoever, or has everything in common with you on the surface and nothing in common with you energetically, and you're going to try to force them into this box. That's not going to work. That's the whole point of the journey, is to try to figure everything out, figure yourself out, and align with people that will benefit you on your path and your journey to explore more. So when we just bring it right back down to sex and you're trying to have control over somebody, that's not love, babes. That's a low vibrational energy. energy. That is fear, okay? That's something else. That's insecurity. There is something else being shown there. If somebody wants to be free, set them free. Let them go. You're not gonna not get another, okay? And let's hope that you actually learned something, so when you do encounter another, it's a better experience. As I reflect between the partners that I had and everything that I've experienced, there are some people that I'm like, they were really good. This was missing. And then I'll find it in another person and they're good in their own way, but they'll open me up and show me another aspect of myself that I did not know was there. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not always about pleasure and indulging in pleasure. You can indulge in pleasure, but you don't want to overindulge in anything. You want to be able to have self-control, because that's also attractive as well. If you lay the boundaries on yourself, you don't lay it on anyone else. You're trying to protect you. You're not trying to imprison another person. People cheat when they step out, when they lie. Let them go. Why are you trying to hold on to something that don't want to be held on to? Do you see what I'm saying? I would much rather want somebody and something that wants to be with me and keeps up with itself to ensure that it's up to standard to be with me and walk this walk with me, than trying to force somebody that's not trying to be with me. There's nothing attractive about that. You know, I understand that people have abandonment wounds, people have anxiety, they have an anxious attachment style. I get it. I understand. And you need to heal that. No amount of good sex, good tongue action is going to fulfill that gaping asshole that you have. Nothing. You're gonna have to fix that. That's not an excuse. You have to figure out how to love yourself. That's a huge indication that you don't love yourself, and that's a huge indication that you have insecurities. The simple fact that when somebody is pulling away, your first innate instinct is to go chasing after them. No, you don't. You better not. Absolutely not. That should turn you off. The second that somebody pulls away and no longer is showing interest, you should say, wow, I'm no longer interested. Especially if you're just in the talking stages, especially if you haven't shared anything of substantial value. It's like, okay, this person doesn't have time, nor do I. Because you love yourself and you understand that you're full and whole. You don't need anybody outside of yourself to reflect that, because you already have the reflection within yourself. And let's be honest, you may be running around saying how somebody is using you, or you feel like others in the past have used you. You wanted to be with them for a reason too. Now we got to start looking at exactly what's going on. What's happening? Because you wanted to share your body, you wanted to have connectivity, you wanted to do all of these things, and it wasn't because you were whole and full. It was because you were missing something, or it's because you felt like you wanted to be aligned with something outside of yourself when you should be enough. And that's why when it comes to guilt, I don't necessarily feel guilt. I can't imagine giving my power away to a person that doesn't even understand how to please me, that doesn't even have the intelligence, the emotional intelligence to know how to open up and connect with me, that can't even arouse me at all whatsoever, that can't accept themselves. Why would I allow their opinion to outweigh my opinion and be more valuable than mine? You're useless over here. Honestly, I will never understand anybody, not just men, but women as well. I'm going to focus on men. I will never understand the men that think that they have some type of value because they're a slut. You're a slut. You're for everybody. And while you're sharing this thing with everybody, nobody else has any memorable experiences of you. You're just easy. You're easy to catch. You're easy lay. There's no obstacle. Even me, I want to feel some type of obstacle. Show me you have some restraint. Dang, you want to lay down with everybody? And then you're not even cleansing your energy? You don't even know how to cleanse your energy? You're not even aware of the energy? Sloppy, disappointing, disgusting. Babes, get a handle on yourself. People that put their value in just getting around and then they're not learning anything. By this time, you should be an expert. By this time, people should be writing articles about you. Nobody cares about you because you're out here willy-nilly just sharing your willy-willy and you're not doing anything for real. I can't imagine allowing somebody make me feel a way. At this point, you should be a master and they haven't mastered anything, okay? Every time I think about somebody that's mastered something, I always think about Superhead. Everybody got that girl name in their mouth. And it's not just about her sex, but it is about her sex too, because she mastered it. She made it her craft. I can't imagine a man wasting his life. He's 42, 43 now, and he hasn't even mastered anything. He's shy of mediocre. And I'm going to let that person tell me something about myself to make me feel guilty? Absolutely not. If you're worried about these stretch marks, you're gay because the stretch marks ain't where the cootie cat is. So at the end of the day, I'm not concerned about what you're talking about. Get down and get to work. Okay, let me stop. I'm innocent, guys. I'm an Aquarius. In all actuality, let's be effing for real. We're allowing people that don't even love themselves, that are insecure themselves. If you sit around men and you actually start to navigate these waters of understanding what different type of insecurities look like, and you realize how insecure they really are, you won't let yourself be subject to any type of judgment that they give. And when you realize how a lot of these prudish women and these prudish men are going to tell you to be ashamed of yourself and how you should feel about how you're discovering self and exploring your journey, guess what? Their sex is crap, guaranteed. Guaranteed. I've never felt the energy that somebody that was prudish had any type of eventful essence going on there. And typically their partners are probably cheating on them, or they're single and miserable because they want other people to suffer. A lot of times people want you to suffer because they bought into the propaganda and they're suffering. Misery loves company, and we need to start seeing through people and through what they have going on. I'm not saying that you should go out there and share your body willy-nilly, and I'm not saying that you should lock it up willy-nilly. What I'm saying is you got to discover who you are, and you have to learn how to feel safe in all areas of life. And sex is one of the biggest areas because it's one of the most powerful areas, baby. I can't imagine somebody that doesn't even know how to get me aroused, how to pour into me. They can't even connect emotionally or spiritually with anybody because there's so much shame. It's not for me. I'm not being mean. I'm being honest. A man's goal in his life is to please you. It's to be worthy. It's to show up and show out. So if he can't even accomplish that in a bedroom when they're giving it out willy-nilly, what is his purpose? Is he really worthy at that point? Does it really matter at that point? And honestly, now I got to get on the women now. I just got on the men. If you sharing your body willy-nilly and you just out here doing whatever because you have this gaping hole, you haven't figured anything else about yourself, you don't have no type of self-accountability, don't know how to control your impulses, just like the men, what are you out here doing? Same energy. You haven't learned nothing. You haven't had no epiphany. You haven't hit this brick wall to say, hey, maybe I need to reevaluate exactly how I'm going through this process in my life because I'm not getting anywhere and I don't feel whole and I don't feel full and I still in the back of my mind feel shame and guilty, but I'm going to put on this false mask and act like everything is okay because I'm empowered. You're not empowered. You're not telling yourself the truth, because at the end of the day, being empowered means that you know you don't have to indulge every second that is available, that you don't have to prove something to yourself, that you're not putting meaning of being worthy into spreading your legs or sticking your Peter in something. Come on, let's get for real. Let's pick ourselves up through our bootstraps. At the end of the day, that is animalistic behavior. And if we're going to be a species that says that we're intelligent and we have consciousness, telling stories and sharing stories is not enough anymore. To move through collective consciousness and really elevate, you have to understand that you have to control yourself. And you have to understand why you have to control yourself. And you have to understand how you control yourself. Do you see? It's not just about making babies. It's not just about pleasure. It's about something bigger than all of that. And if we're going to evolve out of that, we have to have some type of maturity and some type of responsibility when it comes to it. But as you're discovering, it's okay to discover. But babes, if you spend your whole life discovering or not discovering, what are you doing? Sometimes the guilt is arising because we're sharing our body with somebody that we don't trust. We're sharing our body with somebody we don't feel safe with. And oftentimes I can understand not feeling safe with a person because you feel pressured to do something, and not necessarily that they overtly coerce you, but you kind of feel like if you go against the grain, you're actually rocking the boat, or you might be causing a problem, or you might make the situation worse than what it is, because let's face it, a lot of men are actually dangerous. So when you find yourself in a position where you didn't see the trap and you're already in it, you feel like you just got to go with the flow to lessen the blow. That doesn't always mean that the blow is lessened. But on a lighter note, honestly, there's absolutely going to be some type of guilt if you end up sharing your body with somebody that you know innately, you know in your body and your spirit and your energy that you don't want to share your body with. And you know that that person doesn't respect you. That person doesn't make you feel safe. You want to feel safe and respected in order to share your body. You're not even going to experience the best experience when you're not safe, right? You can think you're a freak. You can think that it's going to be good because this person's good, or maybe they know how to treat you and do you. But imagine if you're with a person whose heart space is open and they just understand you on a different level. Having understanding is one of the highest human connections that we could could possibly have. So when somebody understands your essence and your energy and your body, and they know your nonverbal cues, and they're attentive and they're safe and they're willing to protect you in that moment, and even if they can sense that you're not necessarily ready and you don't really know if you want to go through with it, it's fine. They have that self-control to back off. That within itself is safety. When you allow yourself to go into these situations where you're not that safe, yeah, there's going to be some guilt that arises. When you know that you don't feel good in your body, but you're sharing your body, there's going to be some guilt that arises, because at the end of the day, you're going to feel like you're not worthy to experience pleasure, and you're not going to be able to experience pleasure if it's surface. When you start off in an area where you have little to no power and you give away your power, that's where you messed up, because you're giving your power away to somebody that is not even secure. They don't even think they're worthy half the time. They just know that it's easy to get this thing. Let's go ahead and think about it like this. With the male species, they get a rise out of overcoming an obstacle that they know was a challenge to overcome. That's actually more valuable than the sex itself. So when you give it easy, and when I say give it easy, I don't want you to create false narratives to make it hard or challenging. That's not what I'm saying. You want to make sure that you are good and you are safe and you feel comfortable. And until they check all those boxes off, you're not going to give anything to anybody. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Imagine you're giving yourself to somebody and you don't even feel safe enough to speak up and let this person know that maybe you don't like what they're doing and you want them to shift, or maybe they need to do a different position or whatever is going on, right? And you don't say anything and you're moaning and faking like this person is doing good. You're betraying yourself. You're lying to yourself. You think you're lying to this person and you're feeding their ego. They don't give a damn. At the end of the day, they're trying to get theirs off too, okay? But when you don't feel safe enough to speak up because you're scared of somebody's ego, or you're scared that they're going to feel a certain type of way, I don't know what you're scared of, but I know that I've been in situations where if it's not hitting right, get up right in the middle. Nobody is getting nothing. We're done. Wrap it up. Let's go. Go home, or I'll go home. Because what are you doing? We're here trying to get something going and you playing in my face. You can't be playing in my face. All right. You have to learn that you hold the key, because they're giving it out willy-nilly. They're trying to get it every which turn that they can get it. So you hold a lot of the say. Do you see what I'm saying? You as a woman, you hold a lot of the say of what's transpiring. So you got to step in like big boss, because you are a big boss. But because there's been so much oppression, a lot of women don't even realize that. Me and guilt and sex, it's not going to be in the same sentence. And I've had people try to shame me before, and they can't shame me. And even when they try to shame me, I don't even hit them back, because I understand that they're lacking. If you're trying to shame me, I can only imagine what it's like for you to live in your own mind and abuse yourself the way you do. You can't shame me, because the second that somebody tries to do that, I know you're lacking. I know you're less than. I know that you're scared. And when I see people that are scared, they're not bigger than me, because I'm not scared. I learned what I learned. I use the tools that I need. I use my discernment as I should, and I keep it pushing. That's why I'm always winning. That's how you always win. And if you ever need help or reassurance, just think about this. If you care about body count, I hate to waste a body on a bad body. I really would. Really, you got to prove it to me. And a lot of times when we say you got to prove it to me, you think that somebody has to do something sexual to prove it, or they have to show you that they're flexible or whatever. That's not even it. Show me your self-control. Show me that you listen. Show me that you know how to follow orders. Show me that you value me. Show me that you respect me. Show me that you know how to listen to me and make me feel safe and protected in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. So now we can get into some reflections. What specific judgments are you most afraid of? Being called fast, prudish, needy, or cold? Where did that fear come from? And who benefits when you hold on to it? If guilt had a job description in your life, what does it keep you from doing? I keep saying this, but I keep saying it because it's so real. At this stage in my life, I need more than just chemistry. I need safety. I need vulnerability. I need to know that if I say, that doesn't feel good, my partner listens instead of getting defensive, because real intimacy is actually communication. Good sex isn't just about technique. It's about energy flow. I'm closed off if I don't trust you, and it doesn't matter what you do. I'm not opening up. And if I'm not open, the experience isn't healing, it's depleting. What signals tells your body that you're safe with your partner? Tone of voice, pace, aftercare, testing, consistency. How do you want to be guided during sex? And how do you want to guide? What conversations do you feel need to be had before the clothes come off so your body can relax? I think one of the biggest takeaways is the fact that it's very challenging to have sex with someone that's not mature. If the person is not in a mature aspect, then you won't feel open and safe enough to be able to experience anything euphoric or even a regular orgasm, right? And at the same time, sometimes people take maturity a little bit too seriously. They get into this paradigm where it's on the same spectrum but polar opposites, right? So you have the prudish person that looks down on everybody that's sleeping around, expressing themselves sexually and all out here willy-nilly. And then you have the people that give themselves away, no problem, all over the place, no real accountability, no responsibility, just doing whatever for God's sake, who knows why, But they're on the same spectrum, and it's both harmful, right? Because some people go into this aspect of feeling like they need to dive into purity or having like this chastity mindset where they have to save themselves for something special or marriage or whatever. Oftentimes, those people can come off pretty prudish and judgmental, and nobody really wants to be around a judgmental person. And you have to think, when you're connecting with another person and they feel judged and they don't feel safe to open up, what happens? It turns into lust, because they're just trying to scratch this itch at this point because they know they're not safe enough to open up. Now, if you're in that energy because you genuinely feel that it's beneficial for you to be in that energy, it's not rooted in judgment, it's not rooted in fear, it's not rooted in trying to be better than other people, it's just your wish and you're at ease and you feel balance and you feel love and freedom in that choice, then good for you. That's exactly what you should be doing because it feels good. It doesn't feel constricting, right? And you shouldn't allow people to talk you out of it. If you're real with yourself, if you know that you're judging other people, if you know you're judging yourself and you're beating yourself up and you're trying to minimize yourself and shove these different pieces of yourself in the shadow, and you think that everything is bad that you're doing and is demonic, and that's when it starts to become an issue, because you think you're in a higher vibration, but really you're putting yourself in a lower vibration, and you're going to align with a lot of those energies down there, right? For me personally, I went through this energy, but I went through this energy after I had already explored. I went through this energy when I decided it was time to sit down and get clean and get good within and figure out what I had going on and open up my emotions and start to feel my emotions, just not intellectualize my emotions. I needed to open up my heart space and actually feel and be vulnerable and learn what that was. And with that came a lot of responsibility, but it also shut the door on my arousal. I wasn't aroused at all at that period of time, and I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know myself enough to get a real good grasp on what was happening, but I do remember that I started to cover up more. I was fading into the shadows. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be looked at, and I was kind of disappearing in my reality. But I also didn't have a libido. I didn't have any type of sexual arousal at all, which showed me a lot. One of the things that was really surprising, it directly correlated with my creativity, my drive, my life force energy. It wasn't available to me anymore. The things that I loved to do that would heal me and calm me and help me meditate, like painting or dancing and singing, those things didn't come to me as easily anymore. I didn't want to move my hips. I didn't want to do anything that was too sensual or erotic in any type of way. Like, even if it could be seen as erotic to me and it wasn't erotic, I didn't want to do it. I shunned all of it. I closed the entire door. And then I realized that I was shutting off a piece of myself, and I wasn't loving a piece of myself because I felt I wasn't handling it the way I was supposed to. And I didn't understand that all of this was a part of my existence and experiencing. And because my paradigm was not in alignment with that understanding, I was shunning a part of myself. But in all actuality, I just needed to learn how to recalibrate the energy because I started off not knowing anything. I didn't have anybody to have this conversation with. Nobody was this open about anything. Like, people were talking about STDs. I was more informed about STDs and learning how to navigate certain experiences, but I didn't know about the energetic aspect. I didn't know about trying on different shoes to fit in every position of this pillar in which we know is sex. When I saw that I didn't have any of my drive, any of my creative energy flowing, I I realized I was kind of out of flow. I kind of felt cold. I kind of felt empty in a way still, but I didn't know that something else was brewing. I was clearing the playing field. I was recalibrating myself. I was recreating a new standard for myself to be aligned with the thing that was going to fulfill me, because I had my emotions shut off for so long that now when I decided to turn them on, everything was going haywire. And I needed space within myself to get to know myself and reorganize, recalibrate, and get rid of the things I didn't need, the things that no longer served me. So once I was able to open back up again, I aligned with a partner that helped me understand what pleasure really was. And having the pleasure to share this space with this person, being open and vulnerable with this person, taking our time. That was the other thing that I really loved about being celibate for 3 years. I learned how to be patient. I learned how to take my time. And I realized that when the moments arise where my type or the things that used to arouse me would come around in my reality, I wasn't moved. And I realized, they're going to have to work harder to be able to get to me, because the things that used to work, it's not enough anymore. Mentally stimulating me, it doesn't work anymore. Trauma bonding, and I didn't know that I was trauma bonding in any way. I felt like I was being understood, but feeling understood, right place, right time, right person. Even if I felt the energy that this person and I would be good in the bedroom, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to arouse me. Even though my good sex star, I guess, was still working, it wasn't enough for me to be intrigued and actually get me aroused. So when I aligned with a person that was able to do those things, I loved how we were able to take our time. I loved how he was able to work for it. And the thing about it is, when men work for something, not when they persuade you, but when they actively work to make you feel safe, to hold space for you, to be patient with you, to show up for you, that creates a fulfillment and love. And it starts to build upon itself, where you understand that this person is mature enough to know how to handle you and handle this situation. Even though he was my physical type and everything that he was doing, his actions was my type as well, I was still able to pace myself and have balance and not give in too soon. I still needed to see what I needed in order to feel comfortable enough to indulge in this. But I didn't need to be in partnership with this person, because I understood what it was and I couldn't be manipulated into, let's say, for instance, if he were avoidant and I were an anxious attachment style, none of that was going to take place, because I understood what it was. This was an opportunity to experience pleasure and to welcome pleasure into my life and my world for the first time once I calibrated myself and have a new understanding of what it feels like to be replenished and understand that I'm still empowered in this. It doesn't have to be my husband, and it's best that I understand who's my husband and who's not my husband, who's safe and who's not safe. In that retrospect, I'm able to walk my journey and my path feeling more secure within myself, because I trust my own judgment and I'm proving myself right. So in that, I was able to grow out of being celibate for 3 years and experiencing pleasure in a new light, in a new way. Now you can't just get me mentally or do all of the little things that I used to like. It's gonna take a lot of openness and vulnerability in order to do that, and you can't trauma bond with me either. That's very unattractive. And being on the other side, I realized how low the bar was for me. Even though I felt that I was being picky before, I thought I was still being picky. Like, everybody couldn't get me whenever they wanted to. I really had to take my pick. But now it's another energy, it's another vibration, and in that energy, in that vibration, it becomes healing, it becomes euphoric, it becomes something out of this universe. And that is something that you have to be careful with people as well, because some people can get addictive to you and don't know how to work with you and manage you. And then you got to bring out the levels. You got to have levels to your sexual energy because everybody can't handle it, basically. And it's not necessarily like you're doing anything crazy or spectacular. It's more of an energy of like, look, this is how much I'm willing to open up with you, if I'm even willing to open up with you, because you may not be worth the time and the energy, to be honest. You have to learn how to feel safe, be safe. This is the most important aspect of this entire conversation. Learn how to feel safe and comfortable and be safe and be able to verbalize and be vulnerable when you need to, because that is going to fuel you. That is what makes it healing. Once you let go of judgment, once you let go of insecurities and fear, you're able to tap into something else. You realize how much responsibility it takes in order to upkeep your spiritual, energetic, and sexual hygiene. And once you learn that, you're not willing to sacrifice it just for anyone, just because it's present, just because it's there, just because it's easy, just because it's rare. It doesn't matter. You understand that it takes time to cleanse this energy. It takes time to be okay in this vibration. I can't imagine being with somebody that's prudish, because prudish people are pretty judgmental, like I mentioned before, right? And there was a person that was trying to be in a relationship with me a long time ago that was pretty prudish, and I was like, no, because that's really immature energy. You don't understand anything outside of something vanilla. If you can't accept me, there's a part of you that you can't accept either, and you're not willing to go out and see and experience anything to come to your own conclusion. You feel like certain things are bad or dirty or dark or too much or too far or taboo. I don't have time to teach you. You should already be taught. Learning how to develop your own understanding and experiences in your life is really important when you bring in the conversation of sex. It can be enjoyable, it can be high vibrational, but you have to be incredibly comfortable. That other person has to be incredibly comfortable. It has to feel safe and be safe for it to elevate and turn into something of a higher dimension. And usually by the time you get to the point where being tall, being muscular, dark or light skinned or handsome or pretty lips or pretty eyes or pretty teeth or knows how to do it right in the bedroom, or he can dance. What else is out there? Or the mouthpiece is good, or they got swag, or they can dress, or they have money, or they're capable, or a lot of that stuff. Once you get to a place where you need something deeper, you need vulnerability, you need someone to understand, to protect your energy all day long, every day. It feels safer when you're around someone that doesn't lay down obligations, that you have to do this intimate thing with them without them being open, without them pouring in, or else, or they're going to sleep with someone else, or they're going to leave you, or, they're going to try to convince you or coerce you into doing it. You're not going to have good sex when you're dealing with stuff like that. You're not. It may feel good for a little while, but it's going to be very empty. You're going to create a void. When you want it to be healing, this is what you have to do. You have to understand the responsibility. You have to go through a cleansing period. It's just like fasting. You can fast from sex just like you fast from food, okay? When I went through Ramadan, I was 19 years old when I first started Ramadan, and I didn't realize how much I ate, how much I was putting food in my mouth, how much I was drinking things, and I wasn't hungry and I wasn't thirsty, but I was just doing it just to do it because it was around, because it was available. And it didn't make it any easier because I was working at Starbucks at that time. I'm making my favorite drink. I'm like in this repetitive cycle where I'm just doing things and I don't even realize that I committed to something. I didn't realize how much I indulged until I told myself I couldn't eat and I couldn't drink all day long until the sun went down. And that recalibrated me. I was able to learn how much energy I needed to preserve throughout the day, how I needed to move, how I needed to talk. I couldn't get angry because anger even deplenished my energy. I learned that I needed to be patient. I needed to be humble. I needed to make sure I managed my emotions. Things couldn't get to me while I was meditating. And it also transpired throughout the rest of my life, right? And now I'm in my 30s, done Ramadan all these years. I don't think I've missed one. Now I'm trained to understand that even the quality of food that I put in my body is going to have an effect on my being and how I experience life. If I put a bunch of junk in my body at the end of the night, the next day I'm going to be sluggish. I'm not going to be able to last long. I'm going to be running on fumes. I'm not going to be okay. I might pass out. I might need to break my fast, and I'm hanging on for dear life. Do you see what I'm saying? But if I decide to put nourishment in my body, then I'm good. I can run a race if I wanted to, because I realized the difference difference between certain type of foods. Some food just fills your stomach. Other food nourishes your body. Same thing with sex. Some sex scratches that itch and it handles that desire, and some sex heals you and revitalizes you. And once you go through that healing process, once you exempt yourself from sex, you start to realize the difference in the sex that you're having. Sometimes when you decide to be celibate or abstinent, you decide to go through this path, right? You might backtrack and probably sleep with somebody, or maybe there's an incident where somebody comes around and you think that they're a good, safe person, and then you find out that they're not, but your awareness is heightened. You understand now, oh, I never felt this before. I've never felt deplenished like this before. Now I understand what this energy is, and I remember how they felt when we came into being with each other, even before we got intimate. So I know to stay away from this energy because it's not going to nourish my soul. It's not going to nourish my body. And I need to align with something else. And sometimes you need to wait, but you've already waited. So it's not a big deal. You're used to it. You're not clawing at the seams trying to scratch this itch. You understand that the desire is not worth the depletion. And when you understand that, you understand something. You feel me? Going through celibacy was just like that fast. I understood who left me depleted and who was pouring into me and pouring into my soul, and who I could leave feeling a higher vibration with. And not married yet, and I've been able to feel it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of going through the journey, not shaming yourself from the journey, and understanding exactly what you're doing and how to fix it, how to heal, how to cleanse your energy. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame. You're just learning. Can you imagine beating a newborn up because it spilled some water? Like, no, you can't deal with yourself in a harsh manner like that. You can't beat yourself up like that. You have to give yourself some grace. And hopefully you can enjoy the pleasure while you're at it. When you can have sex in pure love and pure energy and be free, that is the best sex that you can possibly have. It's not about being promiscuous. It's not about being pure. It's about understanding how to open up and who to open up with, taking on the responsibility of having discernment and choosing the people that are going to be able to help you along this journey and help you open up to your passions and your pleasures and pour into you and help you revitalize yourself. But oftentimes it doesn't matter if you stay with one person or if you have multiple partners. People, even in relationship, realize in relationship, like, hey, this person is not fulfilling my needs the way I need it to be fulfilled. You go through this journey, especially if you get married young or you're with somebody for a long time while you're young. You're going to evolve during that process, and you're going to realize like, oh, this person is not able to give me what I need when it comes to sex, and it doesn't feel safe with them. I feel empty with my own partner. You can experience that in marriage too. Being honest with yourself is your first order of business. Understanding that it's your responsibility to make sure that you take care of yourself. Once you become an adult, you graduate in being your new parent, and you have to show up for yourself. You have to understand when to speak up. You need to know who to trust, who not to trust, and you're only going to be able to understand that when you go off on that journey and you experience life. I enjoyed this conversation because I enjoy sex. I love sex, and I think that I can say that because I don't need sex. I don't overindulge in sex. If it falls in my lap and I want it, then fine. If it falls in my lap and I want it, but I know I don't need it, then I won't take a bite. Having that type of self-control is going to make or break the situation. I'm not going to be lured into something that I don't want to do. You can't coerce me into something I don't want to do. You're going to end up being a villain if you take something from me that I'm not trying to give to you. Just understanding that I have the power, I'm empowered, and I'm in control of choosing how I want to share my essence in my body and my energy with another person, and understanding that it needs to feel safe. It needs to be fulfilling, and I need more than the surface things in life to feel safe enough to indulge with a person. Because one thing is for sure, two things are for certain. Sex is amazing for women when we're safe, when we're comfortable, when it's intentional, when we're poured into. Then you start seeing stuff, you start seeing the lotus flower bloom in a way that you ain't never seen a lotus bloom, okay? So, just keep all of that in mind. So yeah, I know today's conversation is a little bit taboo, but it's overdue. Sex isn't dirty, it's divine. I mean, as long as your intentions are aligned. It's a life force within itself, but you have to know how to protect it, honor it, and use it with intention. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to go through the experience. If this conversation opened up something within you, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below or DM me at LuminousRah on Instagram. You guys help me with these chapters and you all help me with this conversation on my story. So I definitely took a listen to what you all wanted to discuss. And I hope that I covered anything. If I didn't, definitely feel free to send me a DM or answer some of the story questions that I put up next time so that we can have a more cohesive conversation. I really enjoyed these topics. I can't wait to see what else we discuss, you guys. Let's keep building this dialogue because I feel like too many of us are healing in silence. Thank you for spending your time and energy with me. I really appreciate you. Until next time, that's my time. Peace, love, and a little bit of spice, baby. Mwah.